Hey everyone, today we're ranking the killers from least to most scary based on their in-game gameplay, and how scary it is to face them within a trial for the player. This idea was suggested by someone in my Discord, so thank you to them. We're going to judge this on how often they cause jump scares, the anticipation they cause, the paranoia, and also other things that interact with the player, like the general fear they cause within the match, and also things such as atmosphere, sounds, and the overall presence felt when being chased by the character. For this we have 4 tiers: not scary at all, occasionally scary, often scary, and almost always scary. Let's get into it. Starting with the not scary at all tier. Demogorgon, of course, is the cutest little upside down dweller ever, and there's nothing scary about it in the slightest. Wesker I really don't find scary in the slightest either. I think he's very fun to face, but I do not find him scary at all, with all his silly sounding lines, and his movement looking kind of goofy. Oh, that's what I meant to do, an impression. 7 minutes. 7 minutes is all I can spare to play with you. Legion I think are probably the least scary killers to face in the game, having nothing in particular that makes them scary in gameplay. Facing them in a trial is one of the least scary experiences you can have, I think. Plague, Twins, and Artist I'm going to group together, as they are all quite similar when it comes to fear levels for me, with none of them being scary to face, I wouldn't say. Most of them don't really have anything directly scary about them, other than maybe a few creepy or disturbing noises. For the most part, I don't find any of them scary to face. Hillbilly I don't find that scary really to face either, but there is maybe some scary moments, where he can appear quickly and out of nowhere. The distant chainsaw sound can sometimes feel slightly chilling, but for the most part, I don't find Billy scary to face. Blight is just a bit above, and the thing I find scary about facing him is the unrelenting pursuit he gives, and the weird and creepy head shakes and such he does whilst doing so. Blight is another killer who also looks kinda goofy when he runs at you, and is bouncing everywhere. Cenobite is another killer I don't think is actually that scary to face. There are moments when you can feel a little intimidated, I guess, but I think similar to Wesker, I just find all the lines quite funny, and it lightens the mood for me. His voice lines have been so heavily memed at this point, I can't really take them all that seriously. Oni is weirdly not that scary to me either. Despite him being this huge muscly mass, he's really not that scary, I find. It can be a little intimidating when he enters Blood Fury and does the map-wide yell, but aside that I don't find him scary to face. That could be because I play him lots though and have become somewhat desensitized. Executioner is a character I also don't find that scary to face, a lot like Oni, despite him being this huge guy with a massive sword. There are scary aspects like the light scraping of the knife across the ground and the terror radius music, which can be chilling though. Now onto the occasionally scary tier. Bubba is kind of a unique one, as most I find not too scary if they're playing normally, but some can be pretty terrifying when they sit in the basement with Insidious. It's particularly scary first finding one down there, after not seeing the killer all game. You go to investigate the basement, and they are just standing there menacingly in the corner. Most of the time they aren't very scary though. Clown's main scary aspect is the sputtering and coughing he does whilst chasing you. I don't think he's very scary to chase in gameplay, but I'd be lying if I didn't admit that I find the laughing disturbing now and then. Deathslinger is kind of a similar deal, with him not being that scary to face. The one thing I actually do find quite scary about facing him though is his terror radius and chase music. That paired with the sound of the Redeemer after it fires, and the chain reeling in. The chain can have this spine-chilling feel to it. Freddy has scary aspects with his lullaby, and just many of his visuals being quite creepy. Also, his lunge is kind of terrifying, with it always being longer than you expect. The lullaby is realistically the creepiest thing about him, I think. It can be quite unsettling. It's kind of a shame because Freddy should really be top of this list. Huntress has a little more of a fear factor to her. The lullaby since the very start of the game has always scared me to some degree. Granted, a lot less than it used to, but it still has its moments for sure. I think there's also occasions where she can scare by hitting crazy hatchet shots, A good huntress can pin shots from out of her lullaby, which can really surprise you, even if they just hit close by. Knight is scary for similar reasons to someone like Nemesis, mainly the large, bulky look to him, and the way he clunks towards you with the huge sword. The Ghost Gang members, I think, are actually a bit scarier or creepier than he is, especially the one that screams really loudly and runs at you. That guy especially is super creepy. Spirit is scary just purely visually, I find. Her look and animations are very unsettling, with the twitching and janky movement she has. There's also mini jump scares to be had in her passive phasing, and the creepy sound she makes when phasing too. Trickster is creepy for a similar reason to Clown, except I think he amps it up a bit more, with his different voice lines and such. It can feel quite scary facing him, or intimidating, having this barrage of blades thrown your way as he chuckles to himself and mumbles creepily. Trickster is a character who has a lot of atmosphere around him. Nemesis can be quite scary with his booming footsteps and the way he strides toward you. There's also a weirdly high number of times I've been jump scared by a zombie. They don't always land a hit, but they are actually fairly quiet sometimes, and then they just growl out of nowhere. Yeah, there's some scary moments against Nemi, I think. Pig can be scary with her roaring out of nowhere, which can be quite surprising. I think a unique aspect of her gameplay is her reverse bear traps and their timers, which can result in very tense and often nerve-wracking moments as Survivor. I wouldn't necessarily say they are scary, but I do find they result in very tense moments, which is more than I find with other characters. Moving on to the often scary tier. Sadako is a character who feels like they were built for being scary. She even scares you in the lobby. In fact, her lobby jump scares are some of the moments that have thrown me off the most whilst playing Dead by Daylight. Her gameplay can also be quite scary, with her often appearing out of nowhere. Even her animation when she crawls out of TVs can be pretty creepy. Trapper is also uniquely scary to face, I think. His scare factor comes in the form of the fear of where his traps are. It's this very unique fear that only really applies to him. Whenever you're near a window, you're scared there might be a trap, or when traversing through tall grass. All of these things can result in a lot of passive fear build-up, so I find facing him to actually be pretty scary. Doctor is a killer who can be scary, and I quite like how his fear works, as it kind of ramps up as the match progresses, or the more you interact with him, which is quite unique. The madness sound effects, like the crackling and the laughing, and the creepy whispers from the entity, can be fairly unsettling. There are mild jump scares now and then too, from the fake Doctor hallucinations, or even when you run to a pallet, only to find it's fake. Even sometimes Doctor can scare me, as a lot of the time in the match, someone will suddenly scream, which can kind of throw me off. Wraith is a character who I think has the potential to cause a lot of jump scares when facing him, particularly with his two add-ons that alter his bell noise. With these add-ons, it feels like he could be anywhere and everywhere, and it's maybe the set of add-ons I have been gen grabbed with the most in the entire game. The bell is kind of eerie too in many ways. That sound ringing out in the map, it gives me a bit of a chill. Nurse is a character that is intimidating and a little scary, genuinely just from her power within the game. She is the strongest, and therefore intimidating in a way. Her creepy distant screams are also very unsettling. Overall, facing a nurse is pretty scary. Finally, we have the almost always scary tier. Dredge is the character that I would say is the most built to be scary by nature, and it feels like Behavior's attempts to try and bring a scary character back to the game. Dredge I find genuinely scary still to look at. It's this grotesque creature that is actually quite disturbing. Then there's its gameplay elements like the Nightfall mechanic, which makes things very dark and hard to navigate, with you hearing these disturbing moans, and Dredge having no terror radius. There's also the whole teleporting to lockers thing, where it scratches at the doors and bursts out. There's times too, if they're especially sneaky, where the Dredge can grab you from them, and it's just the creepiest thing. Ghostface is up there for being scary, and it's purely for his stealth, to be honest. He's one of the stealthiest characters, and there's so many times when it'll feel like he appears out of nowhere. The sudden sound of being exposed is always shocking, and and quite jarring. When facing him, you feel so overly cautious when on a generator, darting about in case he comes in and grabs you, or is stalking from a really sneaky angle. That little face peeking at you from a distance can feel very disturbing. Even just seeing him crouching around when he's not going after you is this really creepy feeling. Hag is gonna be our second to last here, and I think she's actually one of the scarier characters within the trials. She is the character that to this day I think has jump scared me the most out of any killer, and it's down to how sneaky the traps are and how quickly and suddenly they pop up. The sound they make is also quite jarring. She also has a lot of add-ons that can add to the fear surrounding her, such as Mint Rag or Rusty Shackles. Shape I think is the scariest killer to face, purely gameplay wise, with him having so many different variations and builds that can cause jump scares, and just generally put you on edge. When facing a Myers, you don't know whether they are playing normally, or have Scratched Mirror, or have a Tombstone or Infinite Tier 3. Myers has so many different variations, and all of them are scary to face, I think, with jump scares, or the potential for you to be immediately moried out of the game. They're two different types of fear, but both of them are very scary. His stealth, paired with his creepy breathing and staring, is the perfect package for scares. Alright, well, that's gonna do it. I do hope you enjoyed, and let me know how your ranking would go down below. Thanks, and goodbye.